Having used those substances one time in your life was statistically significantly correlated with a decreased rate of violent crime.
Nice. Well,
mean,
I've
that's
done all of those.
nuts. That's nuts though, isn't it? There's all these different peptides that like bodybuilders and like health people are taking and injecting. And it's kind of sketchy because a lot of them are buying them online, like as research grade, like these not for human use. And then they order them and then they just inject them into themselves.
Maybe start with, give us the 30,000-foot view of your kind of life, career, where you've been, some of the milestone moments. Like, help me understand just kind of who you are a little bit, set the stage.
Who am I?
Who are you?
I'm a medical doctor and I am obsessed with aging. And I'm looking around at society right now and I'm seeing increasing levels of unhealthiness. People are more unfit than ever. They're more obese than ever. Their diet is worse than ever. And honestly, the environment, the society we've created is not very conducive to health. And we're trying to swim against that with our willpower, and it's just not going so well. And so who am I right now? I am a father of 3 children. I'm a husband. I am an athlete. I'm a lifelong athlete, lifelong learner, and a medical doctor that wants to build a society that is more healthy, more healthful. Before a doctor, I was a basketball player. I was a mountaineer, traveler, a lot of different things. I definitely have broad interests in life, and because of that, have lots of hobbies. I've done lots of interesting stuff and had an amazing life so far, and I'm excited because I think the next chapter is going to be the best. And to be honest, I always kind of think that, and I think that's a great way to think.
Yeah. So you played basketball in college.
I did, yeah.
In junior college, you were All-American.
I was,
And
yeah.
then you went and played Division II.
Yeah, that's right.
And what are some of the teachings from basketball that have translated into how you approach life today?
Yeah, I think the biggest one is teamwork. Team sports are just an incredible venue for learning how to execute teamwork and how, the greatest things in the world are done with teams. You get a group of really smart people together that have a shared goal and a shared mission, and you can do incredible things. So that's definitely number 1 is teamwork. Number 2, hard work and discipline. Those things are so important. If you want to do anything really, really great, you better be ready to work hard. And you've got to have disciplined habits to keep moving yourself toward that goal. So that's probably number 2. And number 3 is just a lifetime of fitness. Like getting yourself set up from an athletic standpoint, building a body is not something that's just important now. It's important for the rest of your life. And you can think of athleticism like a bank account. Whenever you do athletic things, you put money, you put muscle, you put things into that bank account, and then you carry those things with you into the next sport you do, into every movement you do during the day, and importantly for me, into your later years when movement becomes harder and harder. That athletic reserve is it's the most important dividend you can gain. And so I think those are the 3 things: teamwork, hard work, and just the importance of building a body.
So teamwork, share about your team. What's your team look like today?
My team right now is pretty small. I've got 3 people. So myself, medical doctor, my wife is a registered nurse, and then I've also got a graduate student at the University of Colorado who helps me do a lot of research and helps me with sales and stuff like that. But I'm really in startup mode and definitely will be needing to bring a few more team members on over the next year or so.
What about the content creation that you're doing? Are you doing all of the filming, editing? Is that mostly you?
It's all me right now. Yeah. Yeah, and it has been for about 5 years. In general, I have used my content in service of my business. And so like, for instance, if you're a patient, I say, I want you to learn about the importance of cardiorespiratory fitness for your health. And then I started having, 30-minute, hour-long conversations with everybody about that. And so I just started recording podcasts about those important topics because I found that I could then sort of hand those off to patients and they could take a deep dive in it without me having to take an hour each time to really go into it with them. And so it kind of was in service of the business, helping educate patients, educate other providers. And then just as as a provider, there's a big trust barrier to people coming in and spending time with you. Like they really need to trust you. And I think putting out a lot of content out there on the internet gives them an opportunity to interface with you in a very safe way before they ever have to meet you or see you in person or do any of that stuff. So I think podcasting, media, marketing, like all that stuff in general is just a great way to promote a business above and beyond just the exceptional and exponential reach you can get from educating on these platforms that literally anyone worldwide can tune into. Like it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. What's some of your most popular content? What are you sharing most with your clients, and what's getting the most views?
My most popular episode ever was actually an episode on defense mechanisms. So we all utilize defense mechanisms in our life to protect our own psyche from having to deal with the real world around us. So these could be things like avoidance. They could be things like intellectualization. There's all these different defense mechanisms that people will use in their lives to basically protect themselves. And when you start diving into those, you really start to understand human behavior. And I think people just really appreciated that stuff because it helped them understand why the people around them were acting the way that they were, which sometimes can feel very illogical if you don't understand these underpinnings, these defense mechanisms that we all utilize.
Yeah, share a little bit more on that.
Oh man, there's a lot to unpack there.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's literally, if you go and search defense mechanisms, you will find probably about 10 big ones, but 50, 100 different tactics people use to basically protect themselves.
I think one that maybe I use, and I'd love to hear more different examples, but one that maybe I use is, I heard you say intellectualization.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Help me understand that a little bit more.
So when a person feels threatened, and you'll see this a lot, like you might see this with your guests sometime, like you'll ask them a question and they maybe aren't that prepared for it or don't know what to say, they might start going deep into the weeds. Well, that activates this receptor and this does this thing. And they're diving deep using all these scientific terms, all these different things, basically trying to avoid the fact that they really don't know how to answer the question easily and succinctly. And like we do that in our lives, right? Let's say you publish a podcast and let's say you say something that's offensive and a bunch of people get really mad at you. Someone might jump into this really intellectual discussion about why they said what they did, why it makes sense, kind of justifying. And that's basically them using intellectualization to try and protect themselves from backlash from other people.
So is it kind of like an ego thing? Like, I don't want to say that I don't know, so I'm going to try to make you think that I know?
All of the defense mechanisms are people protecting their egos.
Okay.
We literally all do it. We all have this ego inside of us, and we want to protect it from basically anxiety and embarrassment and all these other negative feelings, shame. And so these defense mechanisms come out to deal with that. Another one is what's called histrionic behavior, when people are really emotional and get really loud and vibrant, and they will use that as a way to kind of get out of things. It's definitely an interesting thing to be aware of. And as you start paying attention to people, if they start doing things that you're like, why would they do that? Sometimes looking into different defense mechanisms is a good way to just understand that behavior.
So you are a doctor of longevity. Why are Americans so unhealthy?
That is a result of the environment we've created. Essentially, we have outsourced our physical bodies, right? We drive cars to get places. We use machines to build things. We have comforts all around us that make it so we don't have to move. Labor jobs have been disrupted and replaced by a lot more, intellectual jobs. And so we just don't use our bodies, and we've designed a world that doesn't require the use of our bodies. At the same time, our food system is not very good. We are consuming majority ultra-processed junk food. I mean, for most Americans, it's like 60 to 70% of their diet. And we are just inundated with it. Like, we are all junk food addicts, and we are pummeled with it on advertising all the time. I'm terrified right now because with the advent of artificial intelligence, we're literally now outsourcing our brains. People are writing their papers with them, writing their emails. They're letting these things do their thinking for them, and that is terrifying to me because that is the next outsourcing, and that's going to lead to further health declines. But the reason our health is so much worse in simplistic terms is because of the environment we've created. You know, another big thing is the increasing isolation we have. We are not focused on building communities right now in the United States. We just aren't. And you can see that in volunteering being down, a lot of clubs and organizations, their membership is down. And I think a lot of people are just feeling increasingly isolated. And you can see that in the data when you look at things like volunteering, things like club memberships. And so we basically just created this world that is not that conducive to health. And we really need to walk back on that because human willpower is just not that powerful. I mean, we all think, oh, I'm a strong-willed person and I can overcome it. Man, environment cripples us. Like it overpowers our willpower almost every time. And I try to encourage people to think about that in their micro world. Like, how can you optimize your house to be more healthy? But societies really need to think about that too. How can we optimize our cities, our communities, our schools, our food systems for health?
So as a medical doctor focusing on longevity, how have you set up your life? What does a day in your life look like?
Wow. Well, my life is with 3 kids, all under the age of 4. And so I'm not sure I'm the picture of health at this point in my life. But I do have 4 non-negotiable things that I have done that I think I attribute the majority of my health and wellness to. Number 1 is exercise and fitness and movement. I have committed myself to building a good body, and I participate in a lot of different activities, sports. I move, I'm active. If you're going to be healthy, that is like step 1. Step 2, nutrition. I eat, the vast majority of what I eat is real, healthy, whole foods. We're talking broccoli, microgreens.
Now we're talking. And I've got more for you.
So that's number 2. The social part is number 3. I really make an effort to build great social relationships. And I think the thing that makes me the most wealthy in this world are the amazing people in my life. Full stop. And then number 4 is my brain. I am obsessed with learning. I want to research things. I want to find out new things. And I really challenge my brain every single day. And so those are my 4 big ones. Movement, challenging my brain, building social connections, and
broccoli, microgreens,
nutrition. And nutrition. Yeah. I mean, it's so important.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I fumble. I do poorly on a lot of other things. Like I stay up too late.
What are you doing?
I struggle with moderation sometimes.
What are you doing late at night? Researching?
Just thinking about the world, you know. Yeah. So I mean, in my younger days, I might have been out partying. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing as much of that anymore. Mm-hmm. You know, I miss it a little bit, but I've got a great kind of new chapter of my life going on. But I'm doing a lot of things that might not be so good for my health. But by having those 4 bedrocks in place, I feel like my health is so resilient. I can overcome so much adversity just by focusing on those 4 important things.
So as a medical doctor focusing on longevity, what does your workout routine look like?
Right now, I've gotten really into jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai kickboxing.
Yeah. How long have you been doing those 2?
Like 7 or 8 months now.
Oh, nice. I did Muay Thai in college for maybe about 3-6 months. Loved that. Muay Thai was a very strong workout and very humbling.
Yeah.
In other news, because of GMOs, monocropping, and soil depletion, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. That's why in 2018, I founded B Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the U.S. to help Americans get more natural nutrition in their diets. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life when they're just 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, and unique antioxidants. Our microgreens are all grown here in the U.S. and certified U.S. USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze dry them to extend their shelf life from 1 week fresh to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors: broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane for its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage, our most powerful detox formula that we've tested, giving you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these into any meal: eggs, pizza, pasta, or even your kids' mac and cheese. We have whole leaf, powder, and capsule options, so you can choose the way that works best for you. Use code PLANT15 to save at bmicro.farm.
It's a brutal dance.
Yeah.
And I just love both parts of those. The dancing and the brutality are both very appealing to me.
How tall are you?
6'6".
What's the advantages of being 6'6" in Muay Thai? Longer reach, longer kicks?
Yeah, my reach is pretty insane. Like I can kick a bag or a person, but I don't really kick people.
Yeah.
Actually, we do. We
Yeah, you
spar and
spar,
we
yeah.
kick each other. So yeah, we do kick people. But yeah, I can hit from like 5-6 feet away. Like literally my
Holy
body height
cow.
on what's called a push kick, which is when you use your rear kick and kick straight forward. Yeah, so really good reach, which is really important.
How does somebody defend against that? They just got to get really close to you?
If it's me, they don't. They're in big trouble. I'm just kidding. I'm not. I'm nothing special at Muay Thai, but my kicks are pretty long and far. Yeah, it's really tough. One of the best, I can't remember his name, but one of the best young Muay Thai fighters is this guy who's like 6'4" and 130 pounds, and he's beating the
Whoa.
best guys in the world. And when you watch him, it's just like, holy cow. The best Muay Thai fighters in the world can't defend against him because he can strike from so far.
At 130
with
pounds?
so much power. It's nuts. He is a string bean of power.
So we talked on working out. Do you lift any weights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Talk about that. Talk about your balance of cardio and weightlifting.
I lift heavy weights, as heavy of weights as I can. I do a lot of like powerlifting type stuff, like deadlift, squats, bench press, but then I do kind of all the adjunct lifts as well to try and stay strong. And so I try and do that several times a month as well. And when I lift, I try to lift heavy. So on my last set, I'll try and do like 2 or 3 to failure. And I'm always failing. If you're lifting weights right, and please get your form right, get some help with a trainer, like do this stuff right. You don't want to get badly injured. But once you sort of lock in your form, you want to be lifting heavy and lifting to failure. It's incredibly good for your bones. It's incredibly good for your muscles. And you actually get great cardio when you do that too. Like I am out of breath. As far as my cardio stuff goes, like rolling, what we call rolling is like sparring in jiu-jitsu. Like when you really do that hard, it is an intense cardiovascular workout. And so that's probably my main cardio right now. But I also like to bike a lot. Like I live right by Batasso Preserve. I love going mountain biking up there. I love road biking. You know, when I go out of my driveway, it's either straight up or straight down. And so I am churning up a hill if I go anywhere on my bike from my house. And it's incredible. It's incredible cardio. And I love that because it's like with jiu-jitsu, I'm fighting to keep somebody from mangling my arm or squeezing my neck. So it's like automatic, you're going to go hard. Like you don't even have to think about it. You're going to go hard because that's such a something you want to avoid.
Are there height advantages for jiu-jitsu? The way I know jiu-jitsu is it was kind of created for maybe like a shorter guy has a lot of advantage in there.
I would say that it's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage is that certain types of movements and chokes I can lock up really well. Like one classic choke is a triangle where you literally wrap your legs around one of someone's arm and their neck and you squeeze, and then you basically choke them with that. And that can be awesome for taller people because they just have more leg to get around. Now, that being said, all these really good jiu-jitsu guys, like I'm sticking my arms out and they immediately grab it and they're twisting it around.
There's
and so,
a lot of arm for him to grab onto.
So the really good guys, like this black belt the other day, he's like, keep your arms in tighter. Like you're too tall. Like people are going to take your arm every time.
What's that? Is he Brazilian? What was that?
I don't know. I was me trying to sound like this guy. I don't want to get in trouble by saying any
No,
of
you're great. You're great.
This is what he sounded like. And
Yeah.
he took my arm and bent it in a way that I had to tap like 6 times, and
Yeah.
that's what he said after that.
That's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, though, is you could just tap. You can get an inch away from being unconscious, and
Yeah.
then you get right to the edge and then reset.
It's quite, if your partners are good, so if they're good people that know how to train
Sure.
safely, it's incredibly safe in
Yeah.
spite of sounding probably crazy to people. They're like
Mm-hmm.
choking, twisting people's arms. But yeah, it's actually incredibly safe if you're training with good people.
Okay, talk about your nutrition. What is that looking like?
I eat really healthy food. I would say I eat really healthy food 5 days a week. 2 days a week, not so much. What does my diet look like on the weekdays? I pretty much don't eat until dinner every weekday.
Really?
So
So you're intermittent fasting for
Yeah, maybe a little bit of cream in my coffee in the morning, but just like a splash.
really?
And so that's the only calorie I will consume all day. On my best days, I literally go home and I make a big salad. Lots of arugula. If I have microgreens, I will use them, especially broccoli microgreens. And I'm serious about this, by the way, people. Walnuts, I love I come home, I eat lots of nuts, lots of tree nuts. Other vegetables, I'm obsessed with olives, so I eat a lot of olives every night, and then lots of olive oil, balsamic, and we're talking a gigantic salad. Like this is like elephant nutrition type salad, and I will eat that, and it tastes so good, and I feel great. Now, not every night. I would say 3 to 4 nights a week I do that. Sometimes my wife will make something, like she'll make like a pasta or like maybe like a heartier dish, and I'll eat that too. Like I pretty much eat everything. But on my best
eat meat?
days, yes, I do. Yeah, but not every day. I definitely can sit down and eat like a big steak. And I will do that sometimes. And sometimes my body feels like it needs that, especially if I'm really beat up from training or I feel like I need really dense like nutrition and just like lots of protein. And so I will eat meat more on the weekends, I would say. But on the weekdays, I generally keep it really clean. And honestly, it feels great. I love food, so I go out to eat a lot. Boulder's got an incredible food scene. So,
Yeah, where are you going?
oh man, all over the place.
You go to Wild Pastures?
Wild Pastures is really, those are some really good burgers.
Yeah, that's my number one burger
Yes,
in town. Yeah.
yes, I am going to Wild
And
Pastures.
it's very clean because everything is cooked in tallow. It's regenerative. It's
Yeah.
no seed or vegetable oils.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, burgers and fries is still a burgers and fries, no matter how clean it is.
Oh, really? Okay. To me, I'm like, I'm eating healthy. I had it twice this week already.
Straw cut fries are
Yeah.
really good, but maybe moderation with those.
Yeah.
But yeah, Wild Pastures is incredible. I go to lots of different spots on Pearl Street. Mr. Oso's a new one, kind of over by CU. That was really good. Honestly, like just a great restaurant scene. I like to go up, so I kind of live in between Boulder and Nederland, so I'll hit Nederland too. Nederland's got some great restaurants.
Man, Netherlands, just a bunch of their restaurants just burned down, right?
I know, a big fire up in Nederland, but our pizza place, Crosscut Pizza, is still there.
Okay.
And with the little kids, a lot of pizza too.
How do you think about glutens, and how do you think about especially the amount of glyphosate that's in so much of our wheat?
I am not happy about it, and I have a lot of theories around that.
Let's hear it.
So let's back up. So what's glyphosate? So it is essentially marketed as weed killer, but it's more than that. So it's actually a patented antibiotic. I think in 2014 it was patented as an antibiotic. Additionally, it's also a chelator. So it grabs metals and it holds on to them. I have heard this story, and I'm not sure if it's true, but they originally were looking at it as a pipe cleaner, and they were running it through pipes to try and clean out like the metal residue on them. And then they noticed at the end of the pipe, all the plants were dead.
I've heard a very similar story.
I haven't really fact checked that one, but I do know that it is a chelator. And so for a few decades now, probably 3 decades, it's been used as a weed killer. And one thing that really changed about 20 years ago in the very early 2000s is they started using it not just as a weed killer, but as a desiccant. And so literally
That means to dry things.
Yeah, so they would take wheat and they would say, we're going to harvest this wheat tomorrow. Let's spray this field with glyphosate because we know the next day it will dry out. And why did they do that? Well, it was great for harvest. You've got lighter plants to carry because there's less fluid in them, and then it's good for storage because it's really dry, so you get less mold and less things like that. But what's the trade-off? What's the cost? Well, here's what I've noticed, and I really want to do some research studies to look into this. But what I noticed is that the whole gluten intolerance thing. So let's differentiate. So there's celiac disease, which is like a severe allergy to gluten. Like your gut literally rejects it. It remodels itself so that it doesn't have to deal with it. Like that's a very serious medical condition.
And pretty rare.
It's rare, but not exceptionally rare. Maybe I don't want to speak, but maybe 1 out of 100, 1 to 1 out of 1,000 people. We can fact check that. Gluten intolerance is a newer thing. Like people just saying like, I don't have celiacs, but I can't handle gluten. And what I noticed is starting in the early 2000s when spraying glyphosate to desiccate wheat became the norm, that phenomenon started to skyrocket, which I'm pretty concerned about. On top of that, and this is all theory grounded in evidence. So this isn't proven stuff, but I think this is important stuff to think about.
There's been some major lawsuits,
Yeah.
one against Monsanto and Bayer.
There's some serious proven health issues too. But like, let's think about some of those other things I said. Number one, it's a chelator of metals. So if you take your Roundup Ready corn or Roundup Ready whatever crop and you spray it all over the field, what is it going to do? It's going to get in the soil and it's going to grab metals. And what does that do? It prevents the plant from taking up metals. What have we seen with our plants and nutrition? They have so much less important metals in them. Their magnesium content, their selenium content. Pick any mineral and there is less of it in plants today than there was 50 years ago.
So a lot of fruits and vegetables have less nutrients in them because of soil depletion.
Yeah, and glyphosate is depleting the soil.
Yeah.
Number two, the antibiotic piece. Okay, antibiotics are incredible. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I work in the hospital as well, and the work we do with antibiotics in the hospital is a miracle.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of people talking a lot of shit about medicine. I promise you, at some point, you will become sick. You will come to our door, and you will be amazed at how good we are at acute care medicine.
Yeah. When it's an emergency, these antibiotics can save your life.
That being said, you should not be on an antibiotic all the time.
Right.
We are not just a human organism right here. We are actually an ecosystem. Like you're looking at me, I'm an ecosystem. I have bacteria and microorganisms all over my skin, all over my gut, and all over other body surfaces. And we're essentially like this big donut, right? We've got the gut that goes through the middle. That's like the gut. If you look at a donut, it's got a hole in the middle. The skin's on the outside. We're like a donut. If you think about our gut as the center of the donut and the outside is our skin.
Okay.
Does that make a little bit of sense?
We'll put a visual up.
We'll get a donut up. People can understand. But imagine, okay, I'm eating wheat in the United States and I don't source wheat that hasn't been sprayed with glyphosate. You're eating an antibiotic every single day in your bread. What is that going to do to your gut microbiome? It's probably not going to be good. And so, I have some serious health concerns with glyphosate. And like you said, there's several lawsuits. There's a lot of ongoing research. And I think a lot of countries, for that reason, have pulled it off the shelves or they've said, we're going to greatly limit its use.
And why haven't we?
We have different incentives in this country. We are very business focused and special interest groups control a lot of our government. And, that is our culture and there are benefits to that, but there are huge negatives. And at some point, the negatives are just they're too much and we've got to kind of rethink the equation. But, we're America. We're more about freedom. The chemical companies have pay a lot of money to a lot of people and government to protect the use of their asset, glyphosate, which to them is a huge profit-making machine.
What's one conspiracy around health that you believe to be true?
Oh, man. I don't even know if I consider them conspiracies. That whole thing on glyphosate, I believe all of that to be true. I would like to show that with really firm research. Now, I think a lot of people would say that that's a conspiracy or they might label it as such.
Yeah, conspiracy is a tricky word, but I guess what's one thing that you believe to be true that the mainstream wouldn't believe to be true or know about?
One thing that has recently been started to be figured out more deeply is the importance of sunlight. So medicine has been kind of waging war on sunlight because UVB and other radiation from sunlight can increase the risk of certain types of skin cancers. And that is true, particularly in lighter skinned individuals. But the benefits of sunlight in getting sunlight and being exposed to it are so profoundly important to health that the recommendations of, cover yourself in sunscreen, put on all these clothes, put on a big brimmed hat.
That all have chemicals in them.
Yeah, all that's starting to go away, and people are starting to say more and more, no, get outside, show some skin. You don't want to get sunburned. If you are out long enough to get sunburned, you need to slow down your exposure until you can handle more. But if you're not getting burned, the sun is benefiting you.
And if you have a healthy diet, you shouldn't be getting burned. People get more burned when they are ingesting a lot of seed and vegetable oils.
Here's one thing that's kind of a conspiracy and that's kind of interesting, and I've noticed it. So I've heard and seen some very small anecdotal research about sunglasses and how when people wear sunglasses, they get sunburns easier. And I haven't looked into that on big research scale too much, but I have certainly noticed it in myself. If I wear sunglasses, I will be much more likely to get a sunburn than if I don't. And by the way, sunlight is very important for the eyes as well and for eye health. And just being outside is so important for the eyes. But I think it makes sense to me. Your eyes are sensing this environment, this sunlight environment. So you wear sunglasses, you kind of trick your body into thinking I'm in a lower light environment than I am. And maybe it doesn't rev up the melanocyte tanning production as much and kind of leads to more burning because you've tricked your body into thinking you're not in that potent of a light environment. So that's kind of an interesting.
So sunglasses might not be good for us, might not be good for our health.
And you can't really say things with that much certainty because I have a friend he runs a guiding company, Denver Mountain Guiding. He's outside all day. So does he need sunglasses? Yes. Sometimes am I driving in the glare and I need sunglasses?
Yeah.
Yes. Am I on water sometimes and the reflection is too much and I need sunglasses? Yes.
So these edge cases.
On snow? Yeah, I think if the light's not bothering you, take your sunglasses off and let the light hit. If your eyes are really getting bothered by the sunlight and let's say you're on a snowfield, put the sunglasses on or you will burn your retina. But it's kind of maybe sometimes take them off. So I don't like to use hard and fast rules don't ever use sunglasses. But for me personally and for what I recommend is get outside, show some skin. Ideally, don't wear sunglasses. Do that in a way that you're not going to get sunburned and you're not going to injure your eyes. And I think that's beneficial. And for most of us, it's not all day out guiding people on the Flatirons. It's I only have 30 minutes during lunchtime to get outside, and you really want to maximize that exposure. And what does that mean? Minimizing all the shit that you put on.
Yeah. Speak to the importance of vitamin D.
Vitamin D is critically important for lots of different health functions. It is a fat-soluble vitamin that is absolutely essential. And we can get it from our diet, but we can also get it from sunlight.
But only certain times of the day, and that time and those certain times fluctuate throughout the year.
And basically, anytime there's sunlight out, you can make vitamin D, but more intense, potent sunlight will make more of it than less intense and less potent sunlight. And, there's been a lot of studies actually on low vitamin D and supplementing vitamin D. And those studies have actually been underwhelming. So we know that people with higher vitamin D have markers of better health, better cardiovascular health, better bone health. But then when we take people with low vitamin D and we give them vitamin D supplementation, it's hard to catch those people up to those healthier people with naturally higher vitamin D. The research has not been that profound. And my thought is because these people with higher vitamin D, they're probably getting more of it from the sunlight, and sunlight provides so many other benefits above and beyond vitamin D. But yeah, vitamin D is critically important. If you're very low on it, you get tremendous bone health issues. There are kids with malnutrition and low sunlight exposure that get a condition called rickets, and that is something that does respond to supplementation very readily and can actually be life-saving. But yeah, vitamin D is huge. Sunlight is a great way to get vitamin D.
What are the vitamins, minerals, nutrients that Americans are most deficient in today?
I see a lot of, so I test a lot of these things and I see a lot of vitamin D deficiency, I would say. A lot of people are below, well below the 50th percentile for what we would think is normal. I see a lot of B12 deficiency actually too, especially in elderly people. I test a lot of people at the hospital with anemia, and I find a lot of B12 deficiency in elderly people.
Where do you get B12 from? From meat?
Yeah, from animal sources usually. You can supplement it as well. On top of that, magnesium is quite low in people, especially people with chronic diseases. And honestly, there are tests for you can get these like functional medicine tests, which look at all these like just huge batches of different vitamins and minerals. And those tests are interesting, but they're not super well validated. And so when I test labs, I try to test labs that are really well validated in the medical literature. And so a lot of nutrients we honestly just don't test broadly at a medical level. But I would say of the things I test, which I probably regularly test about 10 different vitamins and minerals, I would say vitamin D, B12, and magnesium come up low so commonly. Like so commonly that every patient that hits my service in the hospital, I give them magnesium sulfate, 2 grams IV on arrival. And I've got pharmacists being like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this to everybody? And I'm like, because they're all low. This prevents heart arrhythmia, and nobody dies on my service unless they go on comfort care or hospice. And even then, they probably live longer than if they didn't. So, yeah, everybody that comes on my hospital service gets magnesium sulfate. And I'm pretty regularly recommending that to people outside of the hospital too, because I measure a lot of lows.
What are some other common themes that you see in the hospital?
Ooh, heart disease, cancer, debility. I think the theme of the hospital. So one thing is that the hospital makes me a really good longevity doctor because I see the end of the road. Like all these other longevity doctors, they just treat well people for the most part. So they don't actually constantly see how awful the end of the aging road gets. And so the overwhelming theme is debility. People can't move. People can't walk. They can't get out of bed. And for that reason, they have to go to care homes. And so for me, it is front and center. You have to invest in your physical health and in your movement for your entire life because those things are going to get harder and harder to maintain as you get older, and they're what ruins people's lives. Yeah. I mean, on top of that, all the other major killers, dementia, heart disease, strokes, cancers, all that stuff. But yeah, debility is the one thing that sticks out to me as people can really do something about this, and they really need to. And then on top of that, when people can move and they can get out there and interact with their environment, their brain health gets so much better. The best way to protect your brain is with movement and exercise as well. And so it's just a hugely important thing that not everyone, but way too many people are neglecting. Mm-hmm. It's really bad.
What are your thoughts on peptides?
What type of peptide?
It seems like there's so many from the Ozempic that seems like there's certainly can get you a little bit of momentum, but people stay on it forever. And then there's a lot of downsides to being on something like that forever to ones that you bring up dementia. And I'm hearing about peptides that support with dementia. I don't really know the names or the state of peptides, but it does seem like the pharmaceutical industry is really trying to shut it down.
So peptides are like a broad class of molecules that can have, in our context, we're talking about using them as supplements or medicines. And so I think you really need to view them individually. And, it's kind of batching them together is like batching, let's say, for instance, vaccines. Like people are like, I hate vaccines. And I'm like, okay, well, don't you think you should unpack that and maybe look at individual vaccines? Same thing with pharmaceuticals. I hate pharmaceuticals. Okay, well, let's unpack that a little bit. This is a huge class of things. Certainly some have been removed because they're so dangerous, but you can't really batch all these things. And so if we're talking about peptides, this is a very common, peptides are very common signaling molecules used within the body. And so they are ripe for medicine targets, for creating new medications and new therapies. And the success that people have seen in certain groups of peptides for having biological effects has been pretty incredible. I mean, like the first peptide really broadly used is insulin. So like diabetics take insulin, and if you're a type 1 diabetic, like that's a life-saving medication for you. And so what I think about peptides, well, if I'm a type 1 diabetic, I love those things. Like they have allowed those people to have a normal lifespan. And they're people that otherwise would have died at a very, very early age. So I think you have to view them individually. As far as like the rise of peptides in popular gym culture, I think there's probably some good stuff there. There's probably a lot of bad stuff there.
What's an example of the gym culture peptide?
Like BPC 157. There's all these different peptides that like bodybuilders and like health people are taking and injecting, and it's kind of sketchy because a lot of them are buying them online, like as research grade, like these not for human use, and then they order them and then they just inject them into themselves.
And it's helping them build more muscle faster, like a steroid?
Depends on the peptide. So some of them are supposed to help with recovery. Some of them are supposed to help with muscle growth. Some of them help increase stimulation of testosterone or growth hormone. There's all different types of peptides that are supposed to have different benefits, and the clinical evidence is severely lacking.
This podcast is brought to you by B Micro, organic freeze-dried microgreens for easy, everyday nutrition. Sprinkle them on any meal and enjoy the benefits. Shop now at bmicro.farm and use PLANT15 to save 15% off your next order.
And so I'm very excited. Like, I'd love for these things to be more studied. A lot of longevity doctors are using peptides which they think might help people age slower.
That's what I was seeing in my research, but just very surface level. Is there maybe a top 3 peptides that seem promising to you, and then like a top 3 peptides where you're like, these are not it?
I mean, the most interesting, most promising peptides are the ones you have heard about. These are the GLP-1 agonists. So tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro, semaglutide, which is Ozempic. I mean, these things have like profound biological effects. Essentially, they force people into a medical fast, which I'm a big faster. Like I do intermittent fasting, I do prolonged fasting, and a lot of these people just need to stop eating. And like these peptides help them do that. And so they're improving people's metabolism. And because we have like this issue in society where like 90% of people have at least one sign of being metabolically unhealthy, you give these things, and since unhealthy metabolism increases your risk tremendously for things like, of course, diabetes type 2, but also things like heart attacks, strokes, a lot of different types of cancers, and organ dysfunctions like liver and kidney dysfunction. We're seeing these metabolically unwell people take this peptide, and a lot of these other organ issues get better and better. Now, long-term, we don't have a lot of great long-term studies. Could there be a price to pay for this? Absolutely. But yeah, from a longevity, from a medical standpoint, that's the most interesting one because we basically have an epidemic of metabolic disease, and that's the one that targets that directly. As far as the like popular, more fitnessy type peptides, I have looked into these pretty in depth, but it's not top of mind for me to kind of spit off a lot of information about them. What I can say is that a lot of people are really excited about them, a lot of smart people, but they just don't have hardly any clinical evidence. I mean, most of them have zero clinical evidence, and a few of the more popular ones might have like a case series on like, 5 to 10 different patients, say, improving their recovery with 6 months of use. So like very small targeted studies. So we just don't know. One of my concerns with peptides is that a lot of them are intended to increase the secretion of growth hormone, which I think maybe from a short-term gain standpoint, increasing growth hormone may be helpful, like if you're trying to like put on muscle as like a bodybuilder. But long term, I have some concerns about that from a longevity standpoint. It may be getting more gains now, but trading time in the future. And so I have some concerns about that. And I really think these things need to be studied robustly before they're recommended broadly. And for that reason, I am, those are not on my recommended list for longevity. Like I'm really focused on lifestyle, environment, disease prevention, and disease management if you do have an existing health issue.
Yeah, what is the cutting edge of medicine for you? Where are you most excited and optimistic?
One medical pathway that I am increasingly excited about is electricity. I mean, we are these electrical beings. Our cells literally run on these electrical chemical gradients. And so we're electrical machines. And people are increasingly using electrical stimulation as medicine. One very common example is so you have this vagus nerve that controls a lot of autonomic functions within the body, of kind of the background processing system of the body. People are putting in electrodes that kind of give gentle stimulation to that nerve, and they're literally curing things like rheumatoid arthritis and other autoimmune diseases. So electrical medicine, I think, is going to explode in the next several decades, and it's going to be really interesting. The other thing is ionizing radiation. I'm really into space and space medicine, and of course, there's a heavy load of ionizing radiation out there. Outside of the Earth's atmosphere and the magnetosphere, which protect us a lot from, and even the sun's magnetosphere protects us a lot from intergalactic radiation. But that is a very high radiation environment, and so people are starting to look more seriously at that as we start to think about sending more people up into space for long periods of time. And so it's generally been thought of as a cancer-promoting bad thing, and that is certainly true at high doses, and it can certainly cause really bad health issues at high doses. But the idea of using smaller, targeted, lower amounts of radiation to cure or help with musculoskeletal injuries and pain has been really promising and really interesting. And the idea that you can maybe give people small amounts of ionizing radiation and slowly desensitize their body to it and potentially even add some resilience is an interesting thing. That's been done in a lot of different bacterial strains. They literally expose them to slowly increasing doses of ionizing radiation, and they become more robust. They can handle it better and kind of make them more hardy. So the idea of something we think of as really bad potentially having a lower dose hormetic effect and being positive is interesting to me. Now, please don't irradiate yourself at home because of what I'm saying, but I think it's just an interesting avenue of medicine that's going to grow. So electricity and ionizing radiation as medicine are two things that I'm like, whoa, this is cool.
On the electricity, how do we protect ourselves from maybe dirty electricity? Example coming to mind is EMFs that our phones and Bluetooth headphones are giving off. Are those goofing with our internal electricity? Is that causing us harm in any way?
The answer is probably somewhere between maybe and probably. So as far as phone level things, those do put off microwaves, 5G, but it's lower relative to these massive towers. In these so I think step number 1, do not live anywhere close
to
a cell phone tower or a big electrical grid. I have had lots of patients, and I've even seen patients that are sitting there with a tremor. And I actually, on one patient, I did a home visit. I said, okay, let me go see your home. I get there, and she's under these enormous power lines.
Whoa.
And I'm just like, you have to move. You have this anxiety, I can feel that tremor in your body, you have to get away from this thing. So get away from the gigantic sources of power. I think that's something we can all try to do. One thing that I do that I think is really health promoting as well is something called grounding. And so I literally sleep on a grounding mat. We are electrical beings, as I said, And just like any complicated electrical machine, we actually function better when we're grounded. So we sleep better, we recover from exercise better, our blood flows better. And so there's all these small studies on the benefits of grounding, but they're amazingly consistent. Like each time they show a positive benefit. A lot of things in health that are kind of obscure like that, like one study will be good, the next one won't, and you'll get this like mix of data that makes it hard to interpret. With grounding, they're all small studies. None of them are incredibly good from a research standpoint, but they're consistent. And then when I do it and when my patients do it, I notice benefit, and there's very little downside to it. So grounding is something that I sleep on a grounding mat every night.
Yeah, share more on that. How does that grounding mat work? How do you plug it in?
Yeah,
Why is it helpful?
It's a electrical conductive mat that you literally just plug into the ground in your wall. And assuming your house is properly grounded, it will make it so that it's essentially like you are contacting the ground. So like if you walk outside without rubber-toed shoes on, you're essentially in contact with the ground. And I think most people that do that, they're like, this feels kind of good. I feel relaxed. It feels nice to have my shoes off. But I think unfortunately, a 20-minute walk or sitting outside on the ground for a little bit, that only gets you so much time. When you sleep on a grounding mat, you get essentially 8 hours of grounded time. And if you think about like our world today, like, okay, we wear rubber-soled shoes, so we're never in contact with the ground. We sleep on foam mattresses, totally insulated from the ground. People used to wear leather-soled shoes. They used to sleep on straw or natural mattresses, which had much better ground conduction than they do now. And so it's something we've kind of slowly removed ourselves from over time, and it's something I do that I think helps, and that I think it's something that people should think about because the risks are so low and the benefits are looking like they're there.
So is it the Earth is giving off a positive charge and we're negatively charged, and then when we come together, the Earth is helping us to balance out? Is that what grounding is?
From a physical standpoint, I don't want to botch the explanation right now, but essentially, yeah, the Earth is this giant sink of electrons, and it allows us to basically just balance out our charges. And when we get that balance, just like your computer or just like your data center, when it's grounded, like everything just operates more smoothly.
Thoughts on pre and probiotics?
I use probiotics, but usually just when somebody either has like a traveler's diarrhea or GI illness, or when I put them on antibiotics. In fact, I almost universally put my patients that I put on antibiotics on a probiotic regimen, which lasts about a week longer than the antibiotics. And in the last 3 years of doing that, I have not had any C. diff cases. So Clostridium difficile is a bacteria that can sometimes take over somebody's gut when they're on antibiotics and cause these nasty diarrheal infections that can even be life-threatening. Antibiotics are a risk factor for that, and so I use probiotics, and I do think they help with that. From a long-term standpoint, I do use pro and prebiotics, but I use them as food, not as supplements. And so if you think about prebiotics, you're really talking about fiber. Essentially, when we eat fiber, they get broken down into lots of different things, but one really important thing is short-chain fatty acids. Those short-chain fatty acids then go to the colon, and a lot of the bacteria in the colon only feed off of these short-chain fatty acids. So without fiber in your diet, you are literally starving some of these organisms that live in your gut. And so the first step to having a good microbiome is really like fiber. You need healthy sources of fiber in your diet. On top of that, like every food that you see, like your broccoli microgreens, the arugula, the apple, every food that you see that is raw is covered in its own microbiome. It's got all these microscopic organisms all over it. And so when you ingest these healthy foods covered in healthy bacteria, you also get to take that on. And that gets to feed and populate your gut with healthy bacteria that can keep you healthful. And so I guess I would say, yes, I do use them. But for me personally, outside of antibiotics, I get my pre and postbiotics primarily and in fact from food.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's pretty much it.
Do you do fermented foods?
Yes.
That's how I think I'm mostly getting mine today.
Yeah, and thank you for adding that too. Fermented foods can be an incredible source of a lot of really healthy gut bacteria. I really like sauerkraut. Like, it's just really good. I, of course, was first exposed to it as part of a bratwurst, which I like that with some mustard and, a beer and everything like that. It's pretty good too. But, I just put it in my salad. Like, I didn't mention that as part of my salad regimen, but I'd say sauerkraut goes in my salad a few days a week. And there's lots of other great fermented foods. And I think
Kimchi, I really enjoy that.
kimchi's amazing. Yeah, there's just a whole list of great
Most
foods.
of it's coming from cabbage, or at least those two are from cabbage. In other news, because of GMOs, monocropping, and soil depletion, Americans are not getting enough nutrients. That's why in 2018, I founded B Micro, the first freeze-dried microgreens company in the US to help Americans get more natural nutrition in their diets. Microgreens are a phase in the plant's life when they're just 14 days old and naturally the most concentrated in vitamins, minerals, and unique antioxidants. Our microgreens are all grown here in the US and certified USDA organic and regenerative organic. We grow, wash, and freeze-dry them to extend their shelf life from 1 week fresh to over 1 year, allowing us to ship anywhere in the US without the worry of spoilage. We have 2 flavors: broccoli, backed by over 2,000 studies on sulforaphane for its powerful detox benefits, and a blend of broccoli, radish, and red cabbage, our most powerful detox formula that we've tested, giving you the most bang for your buck. Easily sneak these into any meal: eggs, pizza, pasta, or even your kids' mac and cheese. We have whole leaf, powder, and capsule options, so you can choose the way that works best for you. Use code PLANT15 to save at bmicro.farm.
You're awesome at the pump up part of this thing.
Well, I really like health and wellness, and I started a health and wellness brand, and I'm very
Yeah.
passionate about it myself. And a lot of things that you're saying resonate with me quite a bit. Let's get into something a little bit edgier. You shared on AI and where you think that can be hurtful to people's health long term. Share more your thoughts on AI and how that will affect longevity.
I guess I'd start with, there are lots of people in the longevity community that are citing artificial intelligence as being a catalyst for why our lifespans are about to increase dramatically. I hope that is true, but no gains have yet been made from that standpoint. So that is all theoretical, and I'm excited because AI certainly helps us crunch and analyze huge data sets, which I think will be really useful in biology, in science in general, in physics and everything else like that. But we're yet to see any of those benefits that people are kind of touting. And so hopefully, to be determined, I hope that's the case. What scares me about artificial intelligence, beside from the fact that we're potentially creating a race of, or not a race, an entity that is more intelligent than us and therefore could come to control us in the future, is that people are increasingly outsourcing their thinking to artificial intelligence. I had another clinic in Boise, and we did like primary care, did a lot of different stuff. And I had a manager there shortly after ChatGPT came out, and it became increasingly apparent that everything this person was doing was done by ChatGPT. Their emails, their plans, and it was just like it was out of control. And so, of course, this person wasn't a good long-term fit for the company, but I just see that increasingly happening.
Yeah, same.
You've got kids at school that are getting busted for writing a paper using artificial intelligence, and then they're writing their apology letter to the school using artificial intelligence. And so they're just basically using it as a means not to think, not to use their brain. And like I said, one of the pillars of longevity is cognitive challenge, challenging your brain, using it, forcing it to understand new things, synthesize new pieces of information, and create new outputs. And these programs are making it so people increasingly don't have to do that. Most people are all too willing to outsource that entirely. And we even have some early studies now showing that people who do that are seeing declines in their ability to critically think through problems. And as artificial intelligence keeps getting better, that is going to keep getting worse. And it's like, okay, we outsourced our physical health. We have cars, we have machines that do our labor. This is the brain now. And we've seen the health defects that occur when we stop using our bodies, when sedentary jobs become the norm. Shoot, when you add brain to that, this gets really dark and really scary.
What can that slip into? Is that where dementia and
Yeah. Yeah. So you can basically think about this as being very likely to massively increase rates of dementia in the future and just lower general IQ points in humanity, like just lower general intelligence. And that is terrifying to me because really, building better education, building better brains, being able to critically think through problems better is like the name of the game for like a rip-roaring society. And it seems like we're moving away from that. We're not investing in education. Seems like the powers that be are worshiping AI over grade school students. They would rather pump tons of money and resources into that than in educating our children. And it's gonna go. I think it's gonna go poorly. And basically, people have to swim against the tide so that they can maintain their capabilities. Just like we do with working out and exercising and movement. We don't have to do that anymore. But we do it anyway because we know it's good for our health. The same thing is going to become true for a lot of thinking.
What's the edge for AI with you? What is your boundary for yourself personally and that you maintain within your family?
I use artificial intelligence all the time. It's for me, it's extremely useful for finding information and for synthesizing information into shorter reads. And so that's the main way I use it right now. It helps me with research.
So instead of Googling something, you'll ChatGPT it, or I should say that's what I do.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I think Gemini, which is Google's product, is probably better than ChatGPT. So you'll Google it, but you'll just click AI mode.
Oh, really? Okay. I
Yeah.
haven't tried that one.
Yeah, so, you've got that, you've got Claude, you've got Grok, you've got all they're all, we say ChatGPT because they're the front runner, but honestly, I think ChatGPT is one of my least favorites of all of them for research, for data and stuff like that. I actually prefer Gemini and Grok a lot more than ChatGPT at this time. But yeah, I use them. I think people need to use them. Like, it definitely makes you more competitive. But to be honest, like, in my business, like longevity metrics, like I am at the front of human knowledge. And so like these machines cannot give me the information I need to know because the information does not exist. It's not a matter of it finding the information, reporting it back to me. It's a matter of I'm trying to build something new and novel that can improve people's health. And so I operate on the cusp of human knowledge to build my service, to build my offerings. But when I use research or when I want to gain background information to help me build that out, I am using those tools. And I would encourage my family to use those tools. Now, I have little kids. They're not really in that zone right now. But I don't think I'm going to be that excited about them using it too much. I think they need to be very literate with it. They need to understand it. They need to understand how to use it. But I think just like with our phones, like how much benefit would it be if we each just took if every other week we just didn't have our phones with us? I think we need those type of AI vacations too. Like, hey, let's take a month and just use our brains and just try to have a conversation without the crutch of, hey, let me check Grok or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever real quick. And so, yeah, I think I'm definitely using them. I would encourage people to use them, to understand them. Like, I think that's going to be needed to be competitive. But you need to very regularly use your brain and not use those tools deliberately. Just in the same way, we have to deliberately not use our cars sometimes so that we can continue to be able to walk.
On some of your LinkedIn posts, you reference your spirituality, that you're a believer in God in some type of way. Share about your spirituality and how that plays into your work.
I am culturally Catholic, and I like to be part of a church. I think a faith community is great. I'm not sure I'm the best believer. I certainly don't follow everything in the catechism. I'm probably a pretty bad believer. I'm also very spiritual. Like I literally, I worship the natural world.
Same.
Like, I think it is so beautiful. Like, I'm not going to church on the weekends. Like, I'm trying to get outside.
Yeah,
Um,
nature is my favorite church.
yeah, and it's like, God, man, if there's a God or a creator or whatever nomenclature you want to use, man, he or she or whatever is a great creator. And I just feel this energy from life. Like, I live in a pine forest. I love being around plants. I love being around nature. And I guess I've always had this feeling that there is some sort of creator and that I was created for a purpose and that we all were and that we're all connected and that we all really should think about treating each other better, and we all really should think about being more guardians of this planet and less exploiters. And I think all of that, from the Catholic to the nature to God to spiritual to the creator, like, I feel it. I don't know exactly how to express those beliefs, but I feel it, and I think it's a really important part of my being and a really important part of my mission.
People that live in blue zones, it's reported that there's many pieces to make a blue zone, but the spiritual community aspect of it is really important. You've touched on how friendships and community is really important to you. Share more about the health around spirituality and community.
Like, purpose and social connection are just enormously important for health and longevity. When people have a reason to live every day, when they have guiding principles that inform how they should behave and how they should act, they are just so much happier and healthier. And when people have great connections, it just improves their health tremendously. Like, we're sitting here and we're having this deep, interesting conversation. How good is that for our brains? Like, it's so
My
good.
brain feels lit up. I'm
It's like
psyched.
on fire.
Yeah, thank you.
But yeah, and there's just so many studies to back that up, and it just feels right. Like, if you have been cooped up in your house for a while, and then all of a sudden you get together with some good friends, you're like, that was awesome. That was so meaningful. That was so important. And so we really need to, in the same way we think about building our muscle, building our fitness, building our fitness reserve, we need to build our social reserve too, and our social resiliency, and just our network. Because being around people is part of being a person, and it's so important, and that's how our wiring is. And yeah, the purpose part, people just do better when there's a purpose. I think that's part of the underpinning for why religion is such a powerful, important thing. Like, it just gives people purpose, and it gives them connection, like social interaction. Like, let's get together and worship, no matter what it is. Are we in a church and we're worshiping Jesus? Great, we're together, we have a purpose, we have this shared experience that's awesome. Are we out in nature? Are we on a hike? Are we taking in all the beauty and spending great time together? Just like the same deal, the same beauty, the same wonderfulness. Like, you get together with people, you've got a shared mission, a shared purpose, you believe that purpose informs your decisions and your ideas and your attitude. It's good for health. And I think because of that, we're going to see, with this rise in AI, we're going to see a massive increase in spirituality. I think a lot of people are going to go back to the church, especially if people are having kids. It's kind of nice to just have like a framework. And I think we're going to see a rise in that, and I think that's good for people.
I grew up in the church, very conservative Christian, and a way that the church would address illness at times is just massive prayer. And I believe massive prayer is, it feels really good. And I pray every day, multiple times a day. And I enjoy that. That's effective and helpful for me. And where's the edge on that when massive action is also needed? Maybe somebody's like, hey, I broke my arm and I'm just gonna try and pray that away.
I would say that prayer is in many ways a form of manifestation. And when you get groups of people praying together for a shared outcome, that's like group, collective manifestation. And so I think that it's extremely powerful. Like, whether or not you want to believe God is in that equation, listening or not, just people having that idea and thinking about it is important. Like, how do you start? I want to build a broccoli microgreens company that improves the health of millions or billions of people. I want to start a podcast that educates people about plants and nature and how that stuff is important to health. Like all these great things we see in the world, they start in our brains and in our thoughts, and we manifest them. And if you've got not just you thinking about it, but a circle of your connections is thinking about, hey, he's gonna do this cool thing, and we're so excited. Steven, sorry.
Yeah, you're good.
He's gonna do this thing, and we're so excited. Like I think that it's even more power to it. So I think you have to act too. Like you have to set that fracture. You have to put that fracture in a cast, or at least immobilize it so the bone has some time to heal back together properly. But I think the prayers, the thoughts, the manifestation, whatever nomenclature you want to use, I think that's important. Now, if you're just manifesting and never acting, it's not going to work out.
Yeah.
You've got to have both. You've got to have both for sure.
What does prayer look like in your life today?
It's kind of melds together with meditation. Honestly, seamlessly at times. I love it when I get a chance to just take a minute and quiet my mind. Sometimes I will literally just try and get all the thoughts out and just breathe. And sometimes I literally will think through, like, this is what I want to manifest. This is what I want to do. And sometimes when things get really hard, I find the harder things get, the more I am like, okay, God, I need you. Like, I just fall back into like, okay, I'm full on belief. Like, I need your help. Like, these are hard times. Like one example is my kid got really sick, and he's really sick, and I'm up in the middle of the night taking care of him, and I can tell he's just in terrible pain, agony, and it's hard to watch because you're like, borderline, we almost need to go to the hospital. And, those times you'll just pray, God, Lord, whoever, please help my child. I'll be a better person. I'll do these things, but I really want this. And so it is a part of my daily routine. And you could call it a lot of different things, anything from meditation to prayer, but it's something I try to make part of my life.
In Colorado, psilocybin, cannabis have become decriminalized and now legal in medical and recreational ways, and some other types of substances too, ketamine, MDMA, I believe. What are your views on psychedelics and medicine? So
we're just pulling out the psychedelic part. So psilocybin basically, right? Okay. Psilocybin is powerful medicine, like extremely powerful medicine. And with that comes a lot of responsibility. You can't just tell anyone, hey, take some psilocybin and this will help your mental health. Like some people will have horrible reactions to that because they have not dealt with things they need to deal with before doing that. And they don't have the training to put themselves in the right setting, the right dose to have that good experience. But as far as research goes on mental health, as far as my personal experience using these things in medicine, they are powerful tools. They're incredibly beneficial for getting people to change their behaviors, improve their lifestyle. They're naturally antidepressive, anti-anxiolytic, outside of the bad trip, of course, which can be really bad if people don't know what they're doing. So be careful. But one really interesting survey study that I always cite because it's fascinating to me. They did this gigantic survey project, and they looked at who had done what types of drugs, and we're talking street drugs, and the rates of violent crime. And so every major class of street drugs, stimulants, cocaine and meth, tobacco, alcohol, all these different classes, using them one time in your life was associated with an increased rate of violent crime. The only one that went against the trend was classic hallucinogens like psilocybin, LSD, ayahuasca, ibogaine. Having used those substances one time in your life was statistically significantly correlated with a decreased rate of violent crime.
Nice. Well, I've done all of those.
Nuts. That's nuts, though, isn't it? Like that powerful of a signal that swims against every drug class. I mean, that's a hold on to your pants because that's like a
Do you have experience in that way?
I have not, but I know that a day-long trip would be powerful.
I had somebody on the podcast that has an ibogaine clinic down in Brazil and
Yeah.
brings people with hardcore addictions down, and is like
Heroin addiction.
it seemed like a superpower to be able to bring people from heroin to like, okay, they're ready and willing, and they could just let go of it. It seems like.
Yeah. And getting into the spiritual thing too, like if you want to have a profound spiritual experience, like those classic hallucinogens can facilitate that tremendously with the right people in the right setting at the right dose.
And for me, they help me feel closer to God,
Yeah.
especially when I was early in my spiritual kind of journey. I'm like, oh, this is now I have more clarity into who I am, what this reality is, and how can I connect to God.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree. And so I think that we are going to see increasing use of those in general medicine because they work so well. I think because of they're now more available, we're going to see some more bad trips and some more things like that. But I think as people start to understand these things better and respect the power that they have, I think they will find a great place in society. And I think we do need them now.
How do you think the church thinks of psychedelics?
I generally think that society has been against psychedelics, like bigger societal features like governments, like big churches, because they really they cause people to question things and question kind of everything. And if you're in power and trying to maintain the status quo, that's not necessarily something you want everybody doing, everybody questioning your authority or things like that. And so I think that historically, like church organizations and governments have been against them. But I think now we're dealing with such profound epidemic levels of mental health that I think they are going to come around and start embracing those tools that we know work. And so as it transitions from like, this is a drug that people abuse to like, no, this is a medicine that helps people, I think that churches and governments will increasingly get behind it.
Did you see they just pulled back THC in CBD?
What do you mean?
This past month, as part of the government shutdown, deal, they're like, okay, we'll turn the government back on, but there's all these other million little deals that are a part of it. And one of the things that was approved is they'll no longer be able to put THC in CBD. That's effective because you get the full spectrum entourage. Just a little bit of THC has been shown to be quite effective.
Yeah, and that's interesting because I feel like it takes so much effort to remove CBD from all the other cannabinoids, including CBD. And so, when you extract that CBD from
when you're isolating it.
Yeah, so it takes a lot of chemistry to get it alone. And so it's funny, like they're like, no, can't add any back. So maybe we need to tweak it so we don't take quite as much out, and then we'll be in better shape. But that's strange. I don't know what to say. Don't know much about that.
Well, it points to like kind of what our current leadership looks like. Now we have, I don't know why that happened. That seems like a deal with the pharmaceuticals, and pharmaceuticals want less competition. CBD's competitive. How do we kind of nerf CBD a little bit?
I mean, what I hate is that when you go into like a recreational cannabis shop, like how much THC only product they have.
True. And it's very, very strong.
It's so potent, and they've taken out CBD, which is quite a bit of the calming effect.
For sure.
And it annoys me. And it's like, that shouldn't be that way. Like, these are why that's part of the reason why you have people kind of tripping out is because they've got this, it's an unbalanced product.
Yeah. It's more escapism versus healing.
Yeah. And, honestly, like from a cannabis standpoint, I certainly don't view that on the same level of medicine as like classic hallucinogens. I think cannabis is a safe recreational drug. There are some limited benefits medically, but they're pretty limited, and it can be very habit forming. And so I think people who do that too much, like, really get themselves into problems. So just like with alcohol, 1, 2 uses a week, you're probably not going to have problems. But if you start getting into daily use, like it's not going to be good for your health. And we have lots of studies coming out that are starting to support that more and more and more. And so I really view THC as like, okay, this is a reasonably safe recreational drug that I agree should be legal. But, it's pretty habit forming. And I think I sometimes think we've done people a disservice by over medicalizing it and getting a lot of people that are like, oh, no, this is my medicine, this is my medical. And I'm like, well, it seems like you're just high all day, every day, and you're not doing the stuff you need to do in your life. So I'm not sure that this narrative and this identity is like a good long-term plan for you.
Yeah, I've been there. So I grew up in the conservative Christian church. Cannabis was, the devil's weed, villainized. It was like the worst. So
Yeah.
I'm 39 today. And when I was 27, I moved to California where cannabis was medically legal at the time. So I'm like, okay, I never smoked cannabis up until then because I thought it was, it was heroin basically is how they made it out to me, the church and my upbringing. So I tried it and I was like, whoa, this is amazing from a dispensary. I was like, this is way better than alcohol. And then I fell into that slippery slope.
Yeah.
And then I found CBD, and then the CBD completely curbed my appetite for THC. I was like, oh, this is what I actually want.
Yeah.
I want this calming, this relaxing, this balancing, and then started to learn about it, that our bodies have a cannabinoid system in them. We have basically it's basically a vitamin that our body wants and needs, and we co-evolved with this plant.
Yeah. 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 And I think CBD has much more established health and safety benefits over THC. Refractory seizures, probably some benefit in reducing anxiety, improving sleep. And so,
Speak to alcohol. And
so you kind of have to take these things individually a little bit. It's hard to just batch everything up.
I totally agree. And even if you're getting CBD, there's a lot of placebo out there. There's a lot of how is it grown? It's amazing at soaking up heavy metals and radiation and bad things. But you can be taking those in. How clean is it? There's not a lot of regulation around the fertilizers, the herbicides, the pesticides that are used on it. So,
and even worse if you're smoking it, because if you're inhaling pesticides and herbicides, that's even worse than going through your gut.
Oh,
because your gut has some, it has a lining and an ability to screen things. Not everything and not perfectly, but the healthier you are, the better your gut's going to work, and the better it's going to keep some of that bad stuff out. Mm-hmm. When you inhale stuff, a lot of the times it gets directly into your bloodstream. Mm-hmm. And so it's an easier pathway. So, that's extremely concerning. Which I'm glad to see like more regulation in marijuana so that we can just make sure that people aren't spraying their crops clean with a bunch of dirty stuff that people shouldn't be inhaling.
So I had the mayor on not long ago, and he said the number one substance issue in Boulder is alcohol. Speak to alcohol, what you're seeing with that. Why is it so bad? Why is it such a slippery slope? What's the state of society that as you see it with alcohol?
Alcohol is detrimental to health. And I think 10 years ago, you'd read studies where 2 to 3 drinks a day, maybe they would say good for cardiovascular health. That all has kind of been erased. And now they're basically gotten to the point where even at low doses, alcohol can predispose you to adverse health outcomes. That being said, I think alcohol is deeply rooted in our culture. And I think that it is a force that does bring people out and together sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so I'm certainly not, I will say that in the longevity community, people are like attacking alcohol like crazy. Mm-hmm. Like they're like, I never have a drink, blah, blah, blah. I would never do this. And I'm not there. Like I like to go out, have dinner, have a drink. Like I enjoy being out. I enjoy socializing. I enjoy being part of that scene. But yeah, alcohol is detrimental to health. Outside of the social benefits, there's no real health benefits to it. And it's extremely habit forming, just like even more so potentially than cannabis.
Because there's a physical addiction that people get that they don't get with cannabis.
Which is, well, they get it with cannabis, but it's even stronger with alcohol. And so, yeah, I think it definitely ruins a lot of people's lives. I see so many people in the hospital that it has just ruined their life. They cannot stop drinking. Their liver is failing. their body is shutting down and they are still turning back to the bottle. Like addiction is profound in that way. It's almost unbelievable to those of us on the outside what people will do that are locked in that throes. But yeah, in general, I think, alcohol is something to be really careful about. And, I want people to go out. I want them to have a good time. I certainly would never ban alcohol, just like I wouldn't ban THC, but I think people need to be careful, especially if it's starting to creep into their daily life and their home use. That's when you're like, no, this should not be at my house if I can't go most of the week without using it.
Is there a healthiest form of alcohol?
Like red wine and stuff is going to have some other
Resveratrol?
some other health stuff in that, some other phytochemicals and things that might be useful. Beer can be useful for different things too. I know people that use beer for various things, sometimes even to relax their stomach, which seems counterintuitive, but some people kind of swear by it. I don't think studies support that, but you'll hear people saying things like that. Of course, there's a lot of potentially distorted thinking in that. But I think just avoiding disgusting mixers. If you're going to be drinking alcohol, like make it high quality.
Yeah.
Pay the extra dollar to get the higher quality, pure stuff. And then don't add a bunch of sugar and junk with the mixers to it. And I think that will improve how you feel the day after drinking tremendously.
When I was in college, I studied abroad in Spain, and I noticed that even though I was young, I was only 20, 21 years old, I would not get a hangover because their alcohol didn't have preservatives in it. So a beer there maybe has like a 2-week shelf life. Over here, it's 2-year shelf life. So speaking to the cleanliness of the alcohol, it's not just alcohol that's in what we're consuming. There's a lot of other things in there to help with the shelf life.
So this is something that I have noticed personally. I have seen it in lots of my patients and clients. And the story goes like this. When I go to Europe, I can eat whatever I want. I can have bread. I can have this. I can have that. I can have beer. I can have wine.
Ice cream.
And I have no gut issues there.
Mm-hmm.
It is like something said almost universally to people that travel to Europe. And I have noticed it too. And Europe does have very different regulations and requirements around what can be used in food. It's like you look at a box here in the United States and it's red dye 48 or whatever. And then in Europe, it's beetroot extract.
Yeah.
And so it's like, damn, I want the beetroot extract. Like, how do I get that, get that version of it? But that is something that I have heard so much that it is almost doctrine in my brain at this point. Like those foods are just so much better quality. Like we get our baby formula from Europe. Like, like it's just a different world. And that's like their buzzword in the EU is like consumer protection.
Yeah.
And it definitely shows. And like we talked about initially, like there's drawbacks, like from a business standpoint. Europe is definitely not crushing it from the U.S., but I think the U.S. really needs to think about these health detrimental parts of the pro-business side, and we need to start reeling some of those things back tremendously.
And what do you think the state of us reeling some of that back is? RFK is now the head of the Secretary of Human Health. I think that's what you say his title is. You mentioned red dye number. I don't know what number it is. Number 50, or do you know what number it is? I don't know. Number 50.
That's one of the something like that.
Well, he just passed that will be taken out. All these things, they give them a year or two to take all these things out. What are you seeing with the current administration and their efforts to make America healthy again?
RFK is an interesting figure. He is like broadly hated and broadly loved within the medical community and within other communities. And so he's such a polarizing figure. But I hope, like he has been big on chemicals like for his whole career. And I think that is a really important issue and a really important health and safety issue. And so I really hope that he is able to get something done in that regard. I try to view people for their good and not focus entirely on their bad. And I think that's a good part of RFK, and I hope that he can get something done on that front. But I don't know. It seems like nothing really ever gets done. So
Yeah, unfortunately, that seems true. What else can you point to that you think RFK is getting right? Where else do you like his, at least his talking points or where he's moving?
I think the biggest thing is on the chemicals and on food safety. I would say a lot of the other stuff. I mean, I like the idea of studying everything we do continuously. Like the vaccine thing, like everybody's like up in arms. Like you got these people, don't get any vaccines. You got people like, don't ever insult a vaccine or we're going to come after you. It's like, that's a really like, those are bad polarizing ends to be at. Like, it's like we have people that don't want to get vaccinated. We have people that do. I would love to just study both of those groups of people longitudinally and look at are there different health outcomes and convince people with data for what they should be doing. Like use data to convince them. And so I like some of like the questioning the status quo. I think he's gone pretty far in some of that stuff and made a lot of academic people mad with some pretty some claims that aren't really supported by research and stuff like that. So I think for like conventional medicine side, he's making some people pretty mad. But I'm down to take another look at all these things. I think that never hurts to I think, in fact, we should be continuing to research all this stuff because we're using, you know, our population is constantly changing. And so we need to look at the changing effects of the interventions on a changing population. So you need to constantly be monitoring what effects things that we do to our society are having, and especially things like medicines and vaccines and stuff like that. But from that standpoint, I don't know if I haven't looked too deeply into it, but I guess the thing I'm excited about is like the better food systems, less chemicals, things like that. Like I hope, if anything, he gets some of that done, and I'd be pretty excited.
Let's get the chemicals out. Let's have our food be more like Europe, where people are bragging about they come over here and how good they feel when they eat our food.
Wouldn't that be? Wouldn't that be something? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's like I wish you could have both. I wish you could have pro-business, people doing really well, like average incomes, average everything going up, and you could also have the health too. Like I want both worlds. And I think
I don't
that
know
should
why
be
you can't
possible.
do it. Yeah, why can't you do it? I mean, these European businesses are obviously making money. It seems like the businesses over here, and it's the same businesses. Kellogg's operates in Europe, and they operate here, and they're using the beetroot there and the red dye here. They're drying with glyphosate here, and they're drying with just the sun or whatever over there.
Yeah.
And making margin, and their businesses are working. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
And, coming back to the glyphosate thing, that was something that I didn't mention that I should have. So when you take mice and you sterilize their microbiome, they essentially act almost autistic. Like they move funny, they interact funny with their other groups. And so I mentioned glyphosate as being an antibiotic and all of us eating it in all of our foods and potentially, to some degree, killing the microbiome in our guts. We've been giving the standard childhood vaccine regimen for, depending on the vaccine, somewhere between 50 and 80 years. And we've only seen this tremendous rise in autism in the last 20 to 30 years. And so, like, the epidemiologist, the person who studies diseases and trends in society in me, says, that trigger has been around too long for people to be even claiming that this could be the cause of autism. And so I look at glyphosate or something like that, and I'm like, this fits much better with the time frame. Was the murderer at the scene of the crime or not? If he wasn't at the scene of the crime when it started, it's probably not your answer. And so I kind of got mad because I feel like some of these anti-vaccination campaigns kind of shifted our focus away from the focus that I wanted to focus on, which is let's get all this crap out of our food.
Yeah. Maybe we take vaccines once a year or once every 10 years, but we're eating this food every day.
Yeah, and it's like, great, let's study vaccines. I want to make sure they continue to be safe in our population. But let's start to look at the things that have really changed in the last 30 years. Our food is like Frankenstein food compared to what it used to be. We are so unhealthy and so our fitness is so bad and our chronic disease burden is so high. Those are the things that scare me as being triggers for increasing levels of autism in our society. And these chemicals, many of which kill microorganisms. Like right now, you look around at the macro world and you see like, oh my gosh, we're in this biodiversity crisis. Species are becoming extinct. And it's everywhere and it's terrible. I promise you, what we can see pales in comparison to the world we cannot see in the mass extinction event going down on a microscopic level. Like what we are seeing in the real world as far as threatened species, endangered species, extinct species, is nothing compared to the what's going on in the bacterial world right now, especially the stuff that lives on and around us. I mean, we're talking a mass extinction event.
And what happens when we lose the bacteria?
We get more disease. Everything from, I mean, these bacteria do so much for us. They take up real estate so that bad bacteria can't land and sit on us. And I shouldn't say bacteria because it's other organisms too. It's the fungal organisms, protozoa. They also make stuff for us. They make chemicals that our body can't make, like vitamins and stuff like that. Like vitamins that we thought were essential, a healthy microbiome can actually make some of those. So they can actually do a lot of biochemistry for us. It's wild. Like for every one cell of yours on your body, there are something like 10 to 100 microorganisms for every one of your cells. And for every one gene you have, there's 100 to 1,000 genes that they have. So the vast majority of what we are is from a cell and from a genome standpoint is actually not even human at all. Like it's nuts.
What happens when the bacteria in our stomach and our guts are disrupted and killed off or beat back?
I think that's a lot of what we're seeing with these people that are addicted to ultra-processed junk food. I mean, they eat that, they get a very defined, narrow profile of gut organisms that live in their gut, and they manifest metabolic syndrome, which then leads to things like cancers, heart disease, all the bad downstream stuff. And so I think that contributes to disease tremendously. And it's crazy because I think these organisms actually speak to us too. Like I walk by a vending machine and I'm metabolically healthy right now, which is a rare thing for a human to be in the United States. 1 in 10 humans have that. And it doesn't look like food to me. It looks disgusting. I'm not going to eat that.
Because it's not really food.
Yeah. But there have been times when I have been unhealthy. In my internship year of residency, I was very unhealthy. There was a carb tray, and I was smashing those carbs.
Yeah.
I was 60 pounds heavier than when I was right now. When I would walk by that crap, my stomach would talk to me, eat that, eat that. You know, and now I'm like, that's not food. I don't want that. But it like literally creates a switch in your biology. And I see it. I see it in people all the time. I'm like, how could you be eating that? To me, it's like, that's disgusting. But they're like, this is so good. And I'm just like, this is not healthy.
So their gut microbiome is set up for those carbs and sugars.
It wants more of the junk.
It wants more of that. And so then the trick is, how do you switch it over to fat and protein and
healthy, real food? Yeah. Yeah, it takes time and it takes discipline. And it's hard to do at first.
Yeah.
And you've got to start slow. And I wanted to mention this. I was like thinking about broccoli microgreens.
Oh, I made you some. I brought you a gift of some broccoli, and then I've got a red cabbage, a broccoli, and a radish, all the cruciferous. So I've brought you that gift. No glyphosate. Tell me your thoughts on microgreens and broccoli.
I love it. Like I said, I put them in my salads all the time. It is like the limited resource in our fridge. Like those things go faster than anything. And honestly, this is what I would say. Broccoli microgreen is a gateway vegetable. Like if you want to start getting in the vegetable game, start with that. Your stomach will handle that better. They'll be extremely good, and it'll make it easier for you to eat, let's say, things with more fiber or more developed plants, like a full broccoli plant in the future. Not that you should stop doing that, but like it makes it easier for you to eat more stuff like that. And from a nutrient and nutrition standpoint, like this stuff is gold. And I wouldn't just say that. Like I basically rip apart supplement companies all the time. Like I think broccoli microgreens are incredibly valuable. And like animals do too. I live on a mountain, but there's like this 20 by 20 foot area that's pretty flat. And so I'm like, I'm going to build a little grass field so the kids can like kick a soccer ball on this thing. And yeah, I wake up in the morning and I've got all these beautiful little grass sprouts. And there's 20 turkeys out there. And they are just mowing through those microgreens, those sprouts. Like these animals know, like this is the most nutrient dense stuff we can get. Even though they're tiny, they're packed with good stuff. And so like animals use it. It's part of their wisdom. It's part of their insight that they have about the natural world. And I think humans do too. Like start to try and eat this stuff and you'll be like, holy shit, that's good. Oh man, that's good. Oh, and you'll want more and more and more, and you'll be mad that these things are so valuable that they come in such small packages because you'll just want so much of them. But yeah, I am a huge believer in produce in general, but I think microgreens are an exceptional source of nutrients. And like I said, a gateway vegetable if people are looking to improve their life. And so if you are one of those people that are addicted to ultra-processed junk food, work in some microgreens. You will feel better and it will start to shift your microbiome toward health. And basically, like health is this contagious thing that you can kind of shift towards, and unwellness and unhealth is this contagious thing that you can shift towards too. And from a society building environment standpoint, it's terrifying because when the majority of people are living in the unhealthy group, they pull more healthy people in. They're pulling people in. We need more healthy people to pull people out, pull people back into the health side of things. And it's like it happens in your house, it happens in your community, it happens in your nation. Like this is at every level you can build health, and you should be building health.
Well, thank you for being on Team Good Health. Where can people learn more about you and check out some of your work and even visit you if they're here in Boulder?
So formerly I was podcasting under Full Scope, and my health screening company was Longetrix, where I do comprehensive longevity-focused health screenings to make people more aware about their health. I have now combined all of that into Longevity Metrics. And so you can find everything I do at longevitymetrics.org, and I look forward to seeing you there. Great educational content. I do research on health and longevity, and I provide these health screenings, which I think if you're trying to become healthy, the first step is awareness. And I think a really good health screening can help build that awareness and help get you started on the right path. So yeah, longevitymetrics.org.
Great. We'll link that in the description. And then I think we've got a few minutes to do a rapid fire. Can we do a rapid fire with you?
Yeah.
All right, great. So just short questions and answers. Biggest myth about health in America today?
That we have treatments that can make you live longer. We have none. We have lifestyle interventions, optimizing your environment, and treating and preventing disease, if you have one, can make you live longer. But we have no supplements, no peptides, no therapeutics that will actually extend the length of your life, at least that have been clinically validated.
One metric you wish every adult tracked?
Just like fitness. Like if you get on any type of exercise machine at the gym, which I want you to exercise outside if you can, but the gym is nice because you can get on any exercise machine and you can look at how many METs of activity you can do. And basically, however many METs of activity you can exercise at least a minute or more, you can times that by 3.5, and that will give you a rough approximation of your VO2 max, which is your cardiorespiratory fitness level, and that is the metric that's been most strongly linked to lifespan, and it's graded. So the better your fitness, the lower your chances of dying. And so it's just so easy. Like you can figure out how many METs of activity you can exercise at. You can look at a nomogram online of like what's normal for your age and different classes from like lowest to highest, and everyone should be aware of how at what intensity of exercise they can exercise at.
What's the most overlooked longevity habit?
Man, all those things that I mentioned are it's unbelievable to me how overlooked all this stuff is, and how important the details are. Like most people are like, I got it, I know it. And I'm like, no, you don't. I would say we haven't mentioned sleep. That's a big one that's really important for health. But I think the social connection part of it, because it's like it's one of those things that everything else is built on. Like if you build some social connections that are really into health, really into using your brain, really into fitness, like that is just a pathway to being much healthier. And so I think the social part of it gets overlooked way too much. And we need to all be getting out there more and spending more time with each other and picking each other's brains and challenging each other. Um, One thing I don't like about the last 5 years is that people don't seem to like to be challenged that much. Like they don't like their ideas to be challenged. And I think it's so healthy for us to challenge our ideas constantly and constantly be reframing and rethinking how we think about things. So I think being open to being challenged and enjoying that and enjoying the debate and the fun and the back and forth is something that I think we've lost and we need to get back into. We need more healthy debates about things, and people should enjoy those things more and not look at them as, oh, confrontation, we need to avoid this. As just like, oh, this is great mental stimulation. We need to dive into this.
What's the most overhyped longevity trend?
I mean, like right now, the supplement industry is just crazy. Like the claims about all these different supplements and their ability to extend lifespan is like crazy. And so I think that these are, billions in sales every year and just no clinical validation to back it up. And so that's what I see as like, guys, you're selling this thing. People are buying it like crazy, but there's no real clinical evidence behind it.
Yeah. So everybody wants a pill.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think these lifestyle things they take a lot of work.
Yeah.
But they're so worth it.
What's one habit that quietly accelerates aging?
Anything that you do that turns down your brain will quietly accelerate your aging. And so let's take, a lot of pharmaceuticals, especially ones for sleep, just basically turn down your brain. And they make it so you don't have normal sleep architecture. You're just basically sedated. And those really hurt your ability to think, really hurt your sleep, and they lead to things like dementia and increased death risk over the long term. I think like we said, you go out, you have some drinks, and you have some intellectual stimulating conversations on alcohol or maybe cannabis, whatever your recreational drug is. That's probably not such a bad thing. But if you're sitting at home, just zoned out, drinking beer, not turning your brain off, cannabis, alcohol, whatever it is, that's going to be really bad. You are turning your brain down, and that is bad for your health. Avoiding things like through AI, like avoiding using your brain. Like anytime you are turning your brain down or turning off its ability to reason through problems and think through difficult things, it's really bad for longevity, and I'm seeing tons of that.
Weight training or cardio?
Depends on the person. I mean, it's both, really. Certain people could benefit from either or. In Boulder, I see a lot of people that way too much cardio need more strength training. Like a lot of people that are almost overdoing their cardio to their health's detriment and not getting any strength training. And so here in this town, I kind of push for more strength training because I see so many really cardiorespiratory fit people, but they're unbalanced. They don't necessarily have the musculature to like support the system. And I think those people are potentially heading to problems in the future.
What's the biggest blind spot in medical training today? So for the students.
All this lifestyle stuff. I think, it's really, it's a rigorous training and there's just so much to learn. Using these drugs, which many are powerful, many are life-changing, but they can also be dangerous. And so just trying to figure out how to use them safely is like, takes up a lot of medical training time along with other just general health and biochemistry and general sciences. And so lifestyle definitely gets overlooked and it's unfortunate.
Describe the relationship between doctors and big pharma.
Intricately intertwined. They provide a lot of the tools that doctors use. And a lot of those tools are incredibly beneficial to people. But, I'll say this, in my hospital practice, about 1/4 to 1/3 of my admissions they're side effects of drugs. So someone was on a blood thinner, they bled. and they had to be hospitalized. Somebody was on a blood pressure medication like an ACE or an ARB, like lisinopril or losartan, and they got sick, couldn't drink water, and they got a kidney injury. And so there's also a downside to these pharmaceuticals too. And doctors, because of that intertwined relationship, I think sometimes doctors don't necessarily call out things as fast as they should. And I shouldn't say all doctors, but just in general, sometimes it takes a little longer than it should to make some of these problems surface. But yeah, they are tightly linked.
Is there anything compensation-wise?
And I think people, like the pharmaceutical companies, they're just like any company. Like they can do amazing things and they can do horrible things, and they regularly do both. And we have to view them like that. And I think it's doctors' job to toe the line with them. And so as a doctor, that's what I try to do, is really toe the line with everybody, including Big Pharma. And I think more doctors should do that.
Well, we're at time, Bill. What's one thing that you might want to leave me with here?
Eat broccoli microgreens. I seriously I love microgreens, and I'm on the Plant Frequencies podcast, and so I think, like I said, nutrition and eating really healthful, nutrient-dense food is a huge part of what I credit my success to in longevity. And so, yeah, so important. Gateway vegetable.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Would love to have you on again. I have so much more that I would love to talk to you about. That was fun and easy. You crushed it. And
yeah, good. I'm glad.
Yeah, great. Thanks, everybody. Bye.